Yo, what's up? This your boy Derek Branch here, Strike7Sports.com. This is another episode of Strike 7 Sports Podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, Brian Botta, Leo the Seaberry. This is another episode of Strike 7 Sports Podcast. But before we open up to the main topics, which tonight is gonna be a pretty much an NBA heavy pod. We're gonna talk about the new transactions with concerning Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson. And the big news today is that 20 of the 24 lawsuits have been settled, according to reports. And it kind of puts I wonder if it shakes things up in regards to the situation. Is that gonna, soften the blow on the potential suspension? Is the NFL, because that's still gonna be there's still a ruling on whether the NFL is going to determine if the conduct was against their code of conduct, their standards for player conduct off the field. So 20 of the 24 lawsuits have been settled, only four remaining. I mean, the rumor is that those are going to most likely going to get settled as well. There's statements put out about the defendants not saying anything at all, and Watson not saying anything about it. But I just want to ask y'all: do y'all think this softens the blow for a season long suspension for Watson, or that suspension is coming regardless of what happens? Does it
Yeah,
need to happen?
I
Go
was
ahead.
gonna. Yeah, I think Shefty put out a tweet earlier today saying that what happened today will have no impact on his suspension, something like that. So I don't think it changes anything. The way I look at it, I've always thought he should have settled. So he just delayed the inevitable because you make case if he had settled earlier, maybe some of these cases would have come out, but less likely, in my opinion, if he had already settled earlier. But I guess a lot of people think he's going to get the year long suspension. I hope he doesn't. I think that'd be kind of harsh, given what he basically. I know he wasn't suspended, but he basically just missed a year. But if they do that, that's it. Uh, and then my question for the Browns is: who would you rather have, Brissett? I can't remember who else is on their roster, or I would rather have Baker Mayfield for one more year. But I feel like that bridge has been burned. But that's what I personally do. But we'll see what they decide to do if the suspension comes. But man, Deshaun Watson, you just got to be careful with these women. That's all. I personally don't understand why he needed a massage therapist. But man, women, they can ruin your career really quickly. That's one thing I've learned. So you just got to be careful. But yeah.
Um, I think that today's proceedings reportedly won't have an effect. I think they should though, because the fact that he's settled, I know it makes it look a little better. He still kind of is going to be a blemish on, but it's still going to be a blemish on his record. Like, if you in some people's eyes, and especially in a lot of women in NFL women who follow NFL, they still look at him, as some sort of predator, even though it has been proven to be so. But personally, the NFL, like you said, DB, it's about image. And with a lot of these things that have happened, like with the Kaepernick situation, other suspensions that are from other players, NFL feel like they have to let an example. Like if they let Deshaun play, and he gets no suspension, then it'll look like you can do anything. But what's notable is after Michael Vick, got out of jail. Like I was thinking about some comparable situations. Deshaun didn't do jail. Is not going to do jail time. Uh, Michael Vick, when he got out of jail, well, I think it was in '09. He didn't serve a suspension.
No,
He didn't
went
serve it.
right back to football.
Yeah, he actually did. He actually was convicted of a crime. So if we're going off precedent says he gets no suspension, but he's probably, if I were to guess what his suspension would be, I would probably say over this 7 game, I'll probably say 4 to 6 games, because I don't think 8 games half the season. He already, like you just said, about it, he just missed the whole 17-game season. So making a man miss almost a year and a half, especially when you haven't been convicted of a crime, I don't think would be fair. But NFL is all about image.
So you said 4 to 6 games?
Yes, because first, I'm a big part of innocence to proven guilty. Like I know, and we know. Yes, the image is what matters in these sports like the NFL, NBA. They don't want these players to be seen as guys, people who are above reproach and above the laws and above the norms and standards that we have for society. But at the same time, this man has not been convicted of a crime. This man has been convicted by the public before he has ever been convicted by a jury of people. And so I don't think that it's fair for us to label this man and suspend and keep him off the field for the long period of time. He's already been off the field for a year. Why does this man have to continue?
Yeah, but that was different though. Go ahead.
I still know, DB. I know you cannot relate the two situations because last year really was more about choice.
Yeah, he was upset.
This would be by force. And so, but at the same time though, DB, I still like even if let's take away last year. I still don't think this man has been convicted of anything. This man has been accused. Accusations don't make a person guilty, and that's what's wrong with society. A bunch of people say something, we take it as fact, and we don't let people have their day. And Deshaun had his chance to get tried by the grand jury. They didn't find him. They didn't indict him. So that should have been like, okay, he's done with that. But I mean, of course, things came up afterwards that caused those rumblings to come back. But each accusation should be taken by its own merit, not bunched together because there's so many. If that makes sense.
Here's my thing though: if you do come down on him, like let's say, like you said, a 6-game suspension, 8-game, 10-game suspension. Don't do like you did with the Ray Rice situation where you suspend him and be like, oh, wait, nah, we got to come back and suspend you for the entire year because that's going to look bad. And if the PA let that slide, they garbage. They need to be, DeMaurice Smith need to be force DeMaurice Smith to lose his job if that does happen. But I just think if they get it, man, I think it'll be 10 games, man. I mean, people might disagree on this, man, but I think that the fact that he settled today is like, hey, look, man, we gotta close this up because I think it's gonna get worse if he didn't. I think more lawsuits are gonna come out, But if you do suspend the guy, don't come back and try to suspend him for the entire year because your image is taking a beating because you're getting canceled on social media because people mad, and I'm not gonna say any names, but certain at the Full Letter Network, certain women over there gonna express their outrage, things like that because they're mad. You can't do that. You gotta suspend the guy for a year or suspend him for a couple games and leave it alone. And as much as unpopular as this may sound, if Watson comes back and they go to playoffs, I'm not saying it's the right. I'm not saying what he did was right. Right. I'm not condoning it. People gonna forget about it, man. They gonna forget about it and they'll go on to the next story. It's gonna be the next story, the next person they try to cancel, and the next person that does something egregious. So you just like I said, you suspend him, stay on that suspension. Don't go back because people upset at the NFL on social media. Goodell cannot mess this up, and the player association cannot, allow them to do that. They got to fight it, plain and simple.
And I agree with you on that. And, something that you were saying that makes a lot of sense. Like you said, they need to stand firm on that position. Like you said, we don't need to have. If you give him 4 games, like if I'm not mistaken, Ray Rice got 2 games.
Yeah, then it's like 6, right? And it was 2 games.
Mm-hmm. He got 3. 2 at first.
Yeah, then it was like, nah, we got to ban you from the league.
Yeah, he didn't get banned from the league, but technically he didn't. But once that happened, teams weren't gonna. The Ravens weren't gonna cut him. Actually,
No, they weren't.
But you know what people, but the Ray Rice though is different though because Ray Rice's play was declining too.
Yeah, and he had a video, and that was a video.
Yeah, and there is no video of Deshaun Watson, so we only can imagine. You know, we only can imagine what what the circumstances of those occurrences. But
right.
I do think that Deshaun Watson after this, he needs to stay clean and stay free of all. He actually Deshaun Watson is actually has a fiance. And she's stuck by his side through all this. And so you imagine being her and having you hear, oh, my man's been accused of all these things, and she's still stuck by him. And so you got to give props to her too.
I don't think she cares.
Hey, when she saw that big check,
I'll send you some links, man. I'll send you some links, man. I mean, I don't think she really cares.
Yeah.
If he messes up, he go, cheats on her. But I'll send you some links later on, though. We'll talk with that.
Okay.
All right, man. Moving right along, man. So the Golden State Warriors won their 4th championship in 8 years, I believe. 4th championship in 8 years, 7 overall. They passed the Chicago Bulls in that aspect, and they won the series over the Boston Celtics 4-2. I said Warriors in 6. I was getting a little worried once the finals got started because of the way Boston was handling Golden State, but they were eventually got it together, and the experience just kicked in at the right time. But what I've been seeing online, I want to get y'all feedback on this. A lot of I'm not everybody's entitled to their opinion. I respect it. But I just see a lot of people, and I would say that the national radio guys, podcasts, YouTubers, all the content creators, independent, whoever. But a lot of people are really, discrediting the Warriors dynasty, bringing up a lot of, what ifs and what if Kyrie didn't get injured and what's the other one? They didn't have Kevin Durant and they didn't really need him. One theory I saw was that if Chris Middleton didn't get injured, maybe we have a Warriors versus Bucks series. That's possibly true. And and Warriors probably lose the series. Because I don't think they can deal with a Giannis driving to the lane like that. Yeah, that's their weakness. A big. They don't have James Wiseman was supposed to be that guy to do that to solve those issues, but they don't have a big. They don't have a traditional big that can defend the rim. They got together against Boston, but it is what it is. But can we just, let the Warriors have their moment? A lot of dynasties, no matter if it's NFL, NBA, baseball, soccer. Well, I won't say boxing because it's like an individual sport, but a lot of dynasties have their what ifs. What if Brady didn't have the Tucker rule? The Tucker rule didn't occur for Tom Brady. What if the 49ers dynasty? What if what if Dwight Clark missed the touchdown pass from Joe Montana? What if the Saints? What if the Saints didn't have the no call? It's just everything has a what if, man. But you gotta let what's done is done with that situation with regards to Kyrie, the Warriors not facing Kyrie and LeBron in that first championship. What's done is done. You cannot go back in the past and change it. It is what it is. The Warriors winning championships. I think they don't, we kind of people, I just see people kind of like discrediting the Warriors dynasty, to my opinion. What do y'all think?
I'll take this one first. I'm kind of one of those people a little bit. Look, the first one, not saying they didn't deserve it, but a lot of things will. And look, every team needs a little bit of luck to win. But when you beat a team that doesn't have 2 All-Stars, then not saying again they deserved it, they won it, but you kind of get that a lot of people fairly criticize them. And the next year, it kind of proved it when everyone was healthy for the Cavs. We saw what happened. Even though they kind of got lucky with Draymond getting suspended and Bogut getting hurt. But after, I think this the first one and the last one, I think really makes me appreciate the Warriors because they did it the old-fashioned way. They drafted a lot of their players. They had a few good role player free agents, made a trade this time with Andrew Wiggins, but they did it the old-fashioned way. And so and then the Kevin Durant acquisition that just like made them unbeatable. Basically, that was what made them unbeatable. So if you add that's great. That officially makes them a dynasty. But if you take away those two titles, I still think this is one of the greatest runs the NBA has ever seen. And give credit to the Warriors. They did everything the right way, and a lot of teams are going to try to follow them. They're the gold standard of the NBA. And just it's amazing to watch how they've evolved. And as a Laker fan, like this, they kind of remind me, or someone actually, not the Lakers, but someone said they remind them of the Spurs, like they followed the Spurs blueprint. And Joe Lacob, when he bought the team, he said he kind of wanted to be like the Spurs, to have not just be successful for 1 or 2 years, but have sustained success. And they've definitely had that under him.
Go ahead, Leo.
I would say that this Warriors dynasty, it's something that people, like Brian said, as a Laker fan, you may not like it, but you have to respect this team, man. This team's, they built right. They built from the ground up. This started in 2009. This was a 6-year process that culminated in your first championship. And you think about this, those Warriors teams, they all, like you said, were homegrown players, but and they also, what's unique to me about this team is so many of these players, everyone wants to discredit the Warriors and say, well, Draymond was by on another team, he wouldn't be successful. If Steph didn't have Clay and Draymond, he wouldn't be successful. I mean, maybe that's true, but that's the beauty of it all. It's they're cohesive. And cohesion wins titles, and we've seen that. I so well, teams can't win. Nobody can win by themselves, and that's what people need to understand. And don't people try to discredit the Warriors and say, well, they they have players who wouldn't thrive, like I said, on other teams, or they wouldn't win without another player. Man, this is what the NBA is. When you draft and build your team, the teams want to do this. Like Brian said, there's gonna be a lot of teams that are trying to be like the Warriors, like the Celtics are. Really, if you think about it, in terms they haven't had the final success, but they've had the. There will probably be. I'd probably say aside from the Cavs when had LeBron, the Celtics are the closest thing to the Warriors in the East. But I mean, maybe the Bucks obviously haven't won a championship, but I'm talking about the Bucks. I mean, the Celtics have been consistently, I think, 4 conference finals in the last 6 years. So they've been there consistently. It's just about them getting over. But the Warriors, they're just the blueprint. They're the standard. Everybody wants to be like them. The Grizzlies want to. If the Grizzlies have even a token of the success that the Warriors have, they'll be like they'll be up there because I think that's the team in the West that's next up that can be like most compared to the Warriors. But they have to at least get to the finals and for sure win a championship before we even put them in that same you know sentence, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You got anything to add, Brian?
Yep.
Yeah, man. It's what's done is done to me, man. It is what it is. The Warriors didn't face the Clippers with a healthy Kawhi and a Paul George, um, Terrence Mann. We'll never know what that matchup will look like. Maybe we find out next year. But let's just give the Warriors their credit, man. Give credit to where it's due. Let them have their moment. I mean, people don't like it. It is what it is. But that's the benefits of building a successful roster through the draft. You draft well. You can add a guy like a Kevin Durant. It's like actually that was extra icing on the cake right there. They didn't really need him, but to me, when we saw the Raptors series, they did need it. And if they had lost this series, because there's an argument that could be made that they needed him against Boston. But Steph Curry, he rise to the challenge and put the team on his back. I remember that was a quote from Brian Windhorst. He was doing a post game coverage from the finals. I think it was game 3, or I think it was game 3, and he was saying that Steph Curry is now in a situation in which LeBron is in regards to the finals, and how he has to put the team on his back. So in that next game, I think it's game 4, he had the 43 points, and the Warriors never looked back after that. Never looked back. But I wasn't confident they were going to close on it was Monday night, right? Tuesday night, game 6. Yeah, I wasn't confident they were going to close, but they pulled it off. So congratulations to the Warriors. I think next year, I could be wrong, but I think we might have Bucks Warriors series. I don't know though. The Clippers, I think people have forgot about the Clippers already, man. People forgot how deep the Clippers are. We have.
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
And the Nuggets.
Yeah,
see, that's another thing. We'll never know. We'll never know.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
And the Grizzlies. And the Grizzlies.
And the Pelicans. The Lakers.
Not the Pelicans. That's not.
Yes.
The
Pelicans.
They'll put no way, no how. They may make the playoffs.
Because I think don't forget about the Timberwolves.
Yeah, Timberwolves. Yep. Yeah. So they got some good teams in the West, man.
Yeah. But there's a difference between being a playoff team and being a contender. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like some of those, like the teams you mentioned, they made the playoffs, but winning it all, I don't think so. At least right now, but we'll see.
Pelicans could be a contender next year. Like that's crazy. They could actually contend for a Western Conference. They actually have a nucleus that's built. Especially if they get Zion back. They showed me enough against and we saw against the Suns, and they put up one hell of a fight. So they have the pieces to be. They need to make a free agent move or two, but there's not much rearranging they need to do.
The only thing, but what you guys gotta consider with the Pelicans, they're gonna have to the chemistry. They're gonna have to build that, and so it's one thing if Zion is just a player you could just plug in and then figure it all out, but he's not that type of player, and so they're gonna have to build the chemistry, and the West is gonna be tougher than it's ever been. That's why it's not a foregone conclusion they're gonna make the playoffs next year, but we'll see.
All right, okay, moving right along. We'll talk about what went down yesterday. The Warriors had their parade, but the other news was that there's been a impasse, whatever it is, between Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets in regards to his new deal. So I got a report from the Athletics, Sham Charania, about the situation. I'm going to go into details on this, sum it up real quick. So give me a second. When the NBA draft 3 days away and free agency around the corner, trade conversations, signs, and pursuits for all 30 teams have begun in earnest. Across the league, major free agents and potential free agents are being monitored. Chicago's Zach LaVine, Washington's Bradley Beal, Philadelphia's James Harden, Phoenix DeAndre Ayton, Charlotte's Miles Bridges, Dallas's Jalen Brunson, and Portland's Anthony Simmons, and more. But one of the most anticipated free agency situations involves Brooklyn's Kyrie Irving, who has a June 29th deadline on his $36.9 million player option for the 2022-2023 season. However, multiple sources tell The Athletic that the conversations about Irving's future has gone stagnant between him and the Nets. An impasse currently exists among the parties that clears the way for the 7-time All-Star to consider the open marketplace, those sources said. All right, so according to the report from Shams, the Lakers, Knicks, and Clippers are expected to be among those interested suitors if Irving leads. Irving has elsewhere, multiple sources tell The Athletic. So he lists the 3 scenarios of how Irving can land on those teams. So I'm going to go ahead and go over them real quick. For the Lakers, the likely path to acquire Irving and reunite him with LeBron James would be Irving opting in to facilitate a trade because the Lakers cannot realistically clear up cap space to sign him themselves, and a sign and trade would trigger the hard cap, thus making acquiring Irving significantly more difficult. If Irving would opt in, Lakers general manager Rob Pelinka would have to satisfy the collective bargaining agreement salaries matching rules, meaning if Irving's $36.6 million option was the only incoming salary, the Lakers could send anywhere from 29.3 million to 45.8 million to the Nets and or a third team in a legal transaction. The next likely path to acquire Irving depends on what the Nets prioritize. New York is even with the salary cap line for 2022-2023, so it could be clear enough space to sign Irving on the maximum contract while offering low the salaries such as Evan Fournier, Alec Burke, Nerlens Noel, and Kemba Walker. But the Knicks is also offer some or all of those players to the Nets or a third team in a possible signing trade. The Clippers, the likely player to get Irving requires him to opt in because they are significantly over both the luxury tax line and hard cap for 2022-2023. To satisfy salary matching, the Clippers will need to send out between 29.3 similar to the Lakers and 45.8 million to the Nets and or a third team if Irving is the only salary headed their way. The Clippers scenario is less complicated than the Lakers, as the Clippers have a series of players making 11 million to 17 million to work with. For example, two or three of Norman Powell, Marcus Morris, Luke Kennard, and Ray Jackson going out satisfy the CBA's trade rules. And they also have a collection of young players like Terrence Mann or Brandon Boston who could also help sweeten the deal. All right, so those are the three scenarios of how Kyrie can land with the Nets, not the Nets, the Clippers, the Lakers, and the Knicks. I want to ask y'all, just give me a bold prediction of where Kyrie can end up.
Oh,
Uh,
all
I'm
right,
gonna
go ahead, Leo. Go
Right.
ahead.
shoot. Bold prediction. They goes to the Los Angeles Lakers. You reunite with LeBron James. That's the only player that you ever been. Only the only time you've ever played in the finals was when LeBron James was your teammate. You played in parts of 3 finals. You won with him. You have championship. You haven't made it past the second round without LeBron James. Why not? Why you tried to win by yourself. You tried to win with another co-star. It ain't worked. It ain't worked. Like you haven't like when they say when it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it wasn't broke. He just had an ego. And I think Kyrie has eaten a lot. We know he's a superstar talent. He's eaten a lot of humble pie when it comes to winning these last few years, or lack of winning. So I think honestly, bold prediction, he goes to the Lakers. I don't want to see us give away Westbrook, but yeah, that's gonna have to be the trade. Westbrook and our pick for 2026 and 2027 pick gonna have to go in. And then Kyrie, one disgruntled superstar, I guess, for another disgruntled former superstar. So Kyrie ends up on the Lakers and wearing Laker gold this year.
Go ahead, Brian.
No way, no how with Kyrie going to the Lakers. I just don't see it happening. If he comes to LA, I feel like his personality and just he would probably be better playing for the Clippers because I just don't think the Lakers fan would lose their mind with him unless if this is a different Kyrie in terms of his availability. That's probably the biggest issue why I don't think it would work with the Lakers because they need someone who's going to be the one thing to say about Russell Westbrook. He may not have played well this season, but at least he was available. That's the best ability is availability. Um, yeah, so I'd probably say the sleeper team it might probably be the Knicks, and the reason why the Knicks would be the sleeper team is because they're not a contender, but they could use that star power and they really don't. I know he's not a true point guard, but that's really kind of what they've been. They've been looking for a point guard for a while now, And so if you could pair Kyrie with his Duke brother RJ Barrett, I think that could really be a formidable backcourt, and at least you can make the playoffs. I think you add some pieces to the rest of that roster. That's a playoff team, not a championship team, but a playoff team, and maybe the Knicks would be fine with that. But the thing that people have been mentioning with Kyrie, if he was going to go to uh, the Lakers or the Clippers, he would have to opt in, then get traded there, because if he opts out, it would almost, unless if he was taking a huge pay cut, that's the only way it could happen. But with the Knicks, he can sign there outright. He can opt out and sign there. They would have to maybe move a contract or two, but he could sign there outright. So that's why I think if he leaves the Nets, I think he could just end up going to the Knicks, and just because he wouldn't have to worry about all the signing or the trade scenarios. He could just sign there outright and not have to worry about that. So it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds. I ultimately think when it's all said and done, he's going to remain in Brooklyn. But if he ends up leaving, I think it goes in this order: Knicks, Clippers, then Lakers. That's what I would the order um, of where I think he could go. Actually, a sleeper team I just thought of, Miami would be interesting. I think they've had some interest in him for a while, but I don't know how they would do it because they just got Kyle Lowry. But teams, if you want somebody, you'll figure out a way to make it happen. Uh, but yeah,
For me, that's for me. I think the best situation for him is the Lakers and playing with LeBron James. Kyrie. I like Kyrie, good player, good person, like what he stands for. But like Leo said, you haven't really won anything since not being away from LeBron James, man. You try to prove that you could be on one, you could be the top guy on the team. You thought we're gonna have that, you're gonna be that in Boston. It never worked, it didn't work out. You go to Brooklyn. For whatever reason, you made the decision not to get vaccinated, and it is what it is. The team, suffered because of that, but you made a decision. But I think the best situation for him, man, is to go to the Lakers, man. And I think that's where he ends up, possibly going to end up if the Lakers, decide to go that route. He already said that he's learned a lot since about him trying to be the man on his own, and moving off of LeBron James, and I think they've been defenses in that aspect. But uh, you know, I think that makes them better in the West. Don't know if they win the championship, but we'll see. But in regards to the Knicks, like that'll sell the Garden out. They'll do great numbers. People in the seats and all that, man. But all you can get is a playoff spot, and I don't think it'd be a high playoff spot either. You know, you be in the playoffs, but you won't be anything like the Milwaukee Bucks or I wouldn't even Atlanta or who else is out there in the East? Miami, Boston. You won't be in any of those teams. But the best situation for him, man, is the Lakers, man. Playing with LeBron James once again, in my opinion. Clippers, I think the Clippers good. With the nucleus they have, I think the Clippers are good. People, I think, like I said, people have forgotten how deep the Clippers are. People have forgotten that fast, and I think next year they're gonna remind everybody. Once Kawhi, Paul George get back, you got the guy terrorist, man. It's a really deep team. But the best, I mean, if I had to make a bold prediction, I think he goes to the Lakers, man. I think he's gonna go to the Lakers. I don't think there's no sleeper team out there that's gonna become the top bidder for him, the top, team to, snatch him away. So I think he might go to the Lakers if I make a bold prediction. I think he goes to LA.
I just thought of another team. Depending on how desperate they are to get another piece next to their star, Dallas would be interested. Dallas would be very, very interested. I just said that.
Kyrie and Luca, man.
Yeah,
Nah.
I just
Kyrie,
thought that too, Brian. Like right in my head, fool. But I just try to think with the fit work. Like I swear to God, we just had you and I just had the same thought. I just had to think with fit work on that. That's what I was just like.
Look,
That's the debate there. What's
it won't work.
I
It
think
won't
he
work.
could. I think he could. I think Kyrie
Nah.
can play off
Who's
the
going to
ball.
play off ball though?
It would be Kyrie. I don't think Luka
Off
can
ball?
play with
Kyrie ain't playing off ball, man. Kyrie
Kyrie
not playing
can play
off
off.
ball, dude.
He played with LeBron James. LeBron James probably dominated the ball more than Luka has. He can do it.
He does have a point. And you know with Luka, he's gonna get his touches. Kyrie's gonna get his touches with Luka. With Luka being such a great passer that he is, Kyrie's gonna have a lot of great looks if he goes to Dallas, though. I would say that.
But my thing is, if you make a move for him, what's the supporting cast gonna look like?
You probably
That's what you gave up. That's
They
what
might-
you gave
they
up.
might-
wouldn't give up
they
too
might
much
keep-
if it's a
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
go. All right, let me get real quick. You probably wouldn't give up too much if it's just a straight up trade. Now I don't know. I don't think they could sign him outright. They would have to move some contracts in order to free up cap space. But if you do a trade, you probably wouldn't give up that much in it. So the question is, you probably get rid of Brunson because you would have to get rid of Brunson and Dinwiddie. You couldn't keep both of them. And then maybe one other piece, depending on how big the contract is. But I think it could work. But if I was Dallas, my number one option to place to Luka would probably be Bradley Beal. Then if I don't get him, then I maybe try to get Kyrie. But we'll see.
Okay. All right. Moving right along. Oh, so my second part of this question is this: if this trade actually goes forward, how does it affect Kevin Durant, and does he stay in Brooklyn? I have to ask that.
Nah, I'd be
Hey,
stunned.
yo, bro, listen. If Kyrie leaves and Kevin Durant say, "Hey, I'm out," the offseason is gonna be crazy, man.
Yeah.
And ain't no telling where he may sign.
Well, KD would have to be traded because he just signed an extension with Brooklyn.
Where would he pick though?
I don't know. Phoenix is interesting because I don't know if you know, back when Devin Booker was coming out, Kevin Durant wanted the Thunder to draft him. So I think he would want to play with Devin Booker. There's been a lot of noise. I don't know if y'all probably seen it. A lot of people in Memphis want KD to come here. So that would be interesting. I don't know.
He's not a Memphis type, man.
I don't know. I feel like playing in Oklahoma City helped in terms of playing in a small market. But you may be right.
Go ahead, Leo.
You talking about Durant? You talking about like what happened with Durant? This might be. You know what? It's highly unlikely that he does this because I ain't gonna put nothing past Kevin Durant. The man's elite. He might stay, and you know how people say he never won a championship without. Could he do and just say, you know what, to hell with this, I'm going to thug it out and try to see if we can go how we can do with this. Because if you take away now, okay, let's take away Kyrie and look at Brooklyn's roster. What is their strengths besides KD and Kyrie? Like, who would be their next best player? And like, would you say it's Patty Mills? Yeah. Who would you say?
Joe Harris?
Hell no.
No. Don't disrespect Joe like that. Joe,
he's good, but
last in the playoffs.
Yo, go ahead.
That roster's not dirt of. That's when you have Kyrie. You know what? Kyrie leaving would actually help the roster get better overall. The team may get worse from a superstar standpoint, but the roster can have a chance to get better because he's taking on so much cap space that that prevents them from being with other players because they have a lot of holes. They need to find First of all, they need to find another shooting guard. They need really Kyrie leaves. You need another point guard. So they could really use trade somewhere because they could use the picks. But KD's
Hey,
not like. But I see what you're saying. He's not trying to stay around for no rebuild.
hey, what about this one, man? Left field. What if he goes to Chicago? KD.
How are
Or
they
down
gonna?
the street.
Yeah,
Or
but
go
they
to
would.
across the hall to the Knicks.
That'd be interesting. But like
Chicago, though, man.
yeah, but you gotta understand, like it's nice to think about, but they had to give something up because they couldn't just sign him. Well, they couldn't just trade him in the cap space. They would have to probably either give up Levine, DeRozan, like maybe one of those, and even maybe add even Vucevic to one of those guys. So it's nice to think about, but like it's so much. There's so much complicated stuff that goes on in order. But yeah, that'd be nice in theory, but
KD in Chicago would be nice, man.
yeah,
That would be nice.
but you're gonna be losing one of the other guys. So it's I just don't think it works. But hey, crazier things.
Hey, if it does come up in the national media, y'all know where you heard it first from. You
Yeah,
heard it from me.
oh, we heard
The
it from
prop.
you. I'll give you your flowers. You don't have to worry about
For
that.
real. Yeah, man. I'm just saying, but like, I've been hearing the chat. Like, we've been hearing it online, man, about if Kyrie leaves, KD could leave. I wouldn't put nothing past it, man. But it's just like if that does happen, man, they gonna set the off season on fire, man. Like it's gonna be crazy. It could be KD watch. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I think I'm done.
Nah, I ain't had nothing.
Go ahead, Leah.
I'm good.
Go ahead. You good? Hey, so
Yeah, I'm good.
James Harden, where he goes? He stays in Philly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bradley Bill.
I think
Stays in Washington.
yeah, I think he stays in Washington, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded later on in that contract. That's probably my prediction with Bradley Beal.
Anthony Simmons. I just started hearing about him this year.
Yeah, he's a solid player. I think he stays in Portland, but if they like, I don't know, like let's say I'm just throwing it out. Let's say they want OG Anunoby because there's been some rumors about that. And in order to get him, you got to pair the number 7 pick with Anthony Simmons. Then I think that could happen. So, depending on what the Trailblazers want to do, I think he could be packaged in a deal. But right now, if I took that money, I believe he's a Portland Trailblazer.
What about you?
But I do think Simon stays with Portland. But Brian, I have heard rumors that Lillard wants Portland to take Shaden Sharp with their 7 pick. Really likes him. Really wants to play with him. And Sharp didn't play any games in Kentucky this year, so and they want him to. That's a guy that if they stay with that, he wants Sharp to be the pick. That's what they've been saying from the intel. But I think Simon stays at DB. You just heard about him because really after being a top 15 pick, Simons was just disappointing. Not disappointing. He kind of played in McCollum Shallow, but when McCollum came, we got out of McCollum Shallow. Guy put up 24 points a game after the All-Star break. It was a really nice revelation. And at 22, at 22, still fits. He's old enough to where he can help the team win, but young enough to where he could be a part of a future potentially post Lillard. So, I would keep Simons and give him like 4 years, like 80. I give him 4 years, 84 million. That'd be like my max for him.
That won't be bad. I agree with that. That won't be bad for him, man. That'll be good. All right, moving right along. Last topic. We talk about the NBA draft, and is there any like game changers like players in this draft? So, according to the Athletic, Sam Vecini, there are 3 top caliber picks in this year's draft. He has Jabari Smith, Paulo Banchero, and Chet Holmgren.
Mm-hmm.
So I just started hearing about Chet Holmgren after the build up to the Memphis game against Gonzaga. And Paulo Banchero, I've been knowing about him for a little bit. And according to his Vicini's mock draft, he has the Thunder taking Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith Jr. going number 1 overall to the Orlando Magic, and Paulo Banchero going to the Houston Rockets. So that's the top 3 picks going to 1, 2, 3 in the draft in that order. But I want to ask y'all about Memphis's Josh Manu and Jalen Durant. Where you think they end up?
You can also maybe throw Lester.
What type of player? Yeah, Lester Keonis.
I'll take this. Jalen Duren, I said in the chat, he won't fall past the Knicks. That's what I believe. So somewhere probably in the maybe 8 to 11 range, that's where he'll be selected. But if he falls past the Knicks, I'll be stunned. Unless it's like they trade the pick, then a team. But I don't think he falls past the Knicks. Josh Minot, I could see him going from the top of from the back end of the first round and then into the second round at any time. Or I could even see a scenario where he gets undrafted, but I think that's like the least likely. I believe worst case scenario, he'll be one of the last maybe 20 picks. You also got to remember, it's only 58 picks because 2 of the picks, I think the Bucks and the Heat, their picks were forfeited. So that's why there's going to be at least 2 players that probably should have been drafted that won't be because there's 2 less picks in this year's draft. But Lester Keonis, to me, is the most interesting guy because I feel like if he plays the way he played in the back end of the season, he could be a quality role player for a team. Like if the Lakers could get, because the Lakers need 3-and-D wings, I think Lester Keonis could be that for us or for any team. He'd probably start out with a 2-way contract, but depending on if a team really, really likes him, they could give him an opportunity on their 15-man roster. But I kind of see him second round. I'll be stunned if he's drafted in the first round. But second round to undrafted free agent. But I think Lester Keonis can end up surprising some people in the NBA.
Go ahead, Lil.
During I don't think gets past the Spurs at 10. Jakob Poeltl is their big man. He put up a career year. I think he averaged like 16 points a game this year. Yeah, 16 around 9. The free agent. Duran will be the long-term vision at that position. If Poeltl were to leave, I think Duran goes to the Spurs at 10. Might not, like Bada said, could go between a second round, mid to late second round guy to undrafted. I think he's gonna get an NBA contract. Quinones, I was looking at some Jason about him. I agree. I think he's a 2-way player in this league. Like a 2-way, like gets a 2-way contract. I think he decent development on his all around game, and like might not too. I wouldn't be surprised if those guys are either second round guys or guys that go undrafted but get 2-way contracts and spend time between the developmental the G League and the NBA. Those are guys that I think are not might not. We might know what Quinones is at the NBA level, a 3-and-D player, so he might have a chance to stick. Sooner. Might not need more development on his all around game, but there's a lot of raw potential in Minot's game. So I can see a team putting him on a 2-way. Just making sure he gets the reps that he needs to keep developing.
Well, according to Vestini, he got Durant mocked to the Hornets at 13. And Josh Minot to the Cavaliers at 39.
Wow.
Yeah, I could see both of those.
Some teams it's always about that's always about perception too, because some teams we know this, we're all sports guys. When it comes to drafts, whether it be NFL or NBA, some teams like a player more than another player. Like, you know what I'm saying? The Hornets viewpoint on Durant is not what the Spurs or maybe the Pelicans would have their viewpoint of Durant. So, you know what I'm saying? So what they're in, each analyst grade of a player is different. So and the Hornets do have a need at center. They have a huge need at center. That may be their most incomplete position. And so, but there's rumors that the Hornets may trade that pick too, though, to try to save cap. That pick in Hayward might be gone to try to save cap space to get another free agent that you didn't talk about, DB, which I thought you would bring up, was Miles Bridges. Miles
Did bring
Bridges
him
is a
out.
huge
Oh
free
yeah.
agent. Huge free
Hey,
agent.
look,
Now, and there's murmurs that George doesn't want to give him a max. Those are real murmurs. They don't want to give him a max, but he's worth it though. They don't want to give it to him. So that their pick they
Well,
might
here's
not be
what
picking at 13.
Vicini said. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
me.
I wouldn't say anything.
Go.
Oh, okay. So this is what Vicini said on the situation with Durant going to Charlotte. So here we go. The first true center off the board with Durant landing in Charlotte and what is basically an absolute perfect landing spot for him. He'll be able to run the floor and be a live catching option for LaMelo Ball, joining Miles Bridges as arguably the highest flying team in the NBA. One further note here. This is a good encapsulation of how difficult it is to find landing spots for centers in this class. If the Spurs and Knicks pass on bigs, the floor becomes lower than you expect for guys like Durant and Mark Williams. The appetite for true centers have never been lower if they aren't positionally versatile on defense. So there you have it. That's the breakdown for Jalen Durant going to Charlotte. Makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, I could see it happening. That a lot of Charlotte people that I follow like Durant, and I could see the Hornets. They need a big badly. I just don't know if me personally, if I was running the Hornets, if I had to choose between the bigs, I'd probably take Mark Williams because he just has more defensive uh, tools that can help you right away. As good as Durant is, I don't think he's better defensively as Mark Williams, and I think that's what the Hornets need, a really good defensive center because they really got to improve their defense. They improve their defense, they're a playoff team. Uh, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where the Memphis players go. But Penny's done a good job with the bigs. That's the one thing you can say in recruiting and getting them drafted. But the problem is the guards and the wings. That's where he has to catch up. Once he starts doing that, then you can start pitching that more to recruits. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Did y'all hear that? I think there's a quote I heard one day on the broadcast during the tournament, the AEC tournament, I think it was, or in the regular season. One of the commentators made a comparison of Lester Quinones to Devin Booker. Did y'all hear that?
I didn't hear that. I wish it was in the
Yo, it was on Twitter. I heard it. I'm like, whoa, Booker.
I think maybe in
I don't
terms of
see that, man.
I think I can understand a little bit of where he was going in terms of like maybe shooting ability. But yeah, that's the only comparison I see. And maybe being light skinned. Other than that, that's the only comparison I see. I don't see any other comparison. Those are the
I
only
don't see
two I
it, man.
see.
He don't shoot consistently enough to be
But he
compared to
does have
Devin Booker.
he has a pretty jump shot. I'll give him that.
He can get you buckets, man. He's a get a bucket guy, but he's not like a Devin Booker. So we'll see. All right, that's all we have for y'all for right now, man. Give us a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Let us know how you feel. Listen to this on Apple, Spotify. Give us a 5-star rating. Leave a review. Let us know how you feel about the topics we talked about. Also, check out strike7sports.com for latest content on NFL, the NBA, and much more. We'll be having previews coming up in the month of July with the NFL and college football. We'll be starting up college football content, also the Memphis Tigers content as well. We're trying to get some guests onto the show, some guys you may have heard of before. So we're going to work on that. But that's all we have for y'all for right now. Have a blessed night. Peace. We out.